I've been working on a Kingdom Hearts inspired game for over 3 years now, and recently I decided to finally add flying enemies to my combat to take it to the next level, but that decision nearly broke my entire game. At first everything seemed straightforward. I added flying enemy characters with a similar look to my basic ground enemies, set up their AI, and finally switched their movement mode to flying. But when I jumped into the game to test these new flying enemies, things started to go wrong immediately. They kept getting stuck in the ground and couldn't chase me to higher platforms at all. At first I thought maybe something's up with the gravity settings, so I set their gravity to 0, but that just made things worse. Now when I hit them, they just started to float away into oblivion. I kept adjusting movement settings, tweaking parameters, testing again and again, but things just kept getting worse and worse. Eventually, I did some digging online and discovered the root of the problem. Unreal Engine, the game engine I'm using, doesn't support 3D pathfinding. It only handles 2D pathfinding. And for those of you who aren't familiar, pathfinding is how characters are able to navigate to a specific point in the game world, and in this case flying enemies chasing after the player. Normally enemies navigate in 2 dimensions on the ground, easily finding paths around obstacles. But my flying enemies needed to freely navigate in 3 dimensions, up and down, left and right, through open space. 3D pathfinding isn't nearly as straightforward as 2D pathfinding. It's kind of like why Google Maps gives you a flat 2D route and doesn't really handle elevation changes like hills and stairs very well. It's complicated and the engine simply wasn't built to handle it. Luckily, after some research, I found exactly what I needed. A developer named Binance Static had created a plugin called Customizable Pathfinding, specifically designed to handle 3D pathfinding in Unreal Engine. I was excited because I previously tried another similar system called Dawn's 3D Pathfinding for Flying AI, but I had to abandon it due to major performance issues and lack of development support. But this new plugin used voxels, essentially a 3D grid of small cubes to let enemies understand their surroundings and move freely through 3D space. After integrating this plugin, my flying enemies started to behave naturally. They flew around obstacles, navigate through tight spaces, and properly chased the player to higher platforms. But once I solved this problem, another issue emerged. Fighting flying enemies felt really bad and not fun at all. While tackling this new issue, I found myself sitting at my desk way longer than usual, deeply focused on getting the air combat right. Before I knew it, I started to feel this sharp pain in my back. It was pretty clear my chair wasn't doing me any favors, especially considering the hours I spent working and gaming each day. You see, a while back, I bought an expensive racing-style gaming chair, thinking it would be great, but after a few months of using it, I started to experience constant back pain, even hours after leaving the desk. After some digging, I learned that racing chairs can actually be really bad for your back over the long run, potentially causing permanent issues. And I found out that ergonomic chairs are the ones that are better for the back and more healthy. And right when I was about to buy a new ergonomic chair, FlexiSpot reached out to me. It was perfect timing. They offered to send me their C7 Premium Ergo office chair to try out. About a week later, a huge box showed up at my door. Setting it up was quick and easy, and ever since I started using it, my back pain had completely disappeared. One of the great features of the chair is that it has a 5-dimensional armrest that can go forward, back, left, right, and up and down, allowing you to customize the perfect position for your arms. It also has a very dynamic headrest that can go up and down and then also rotate to the desired degree that's best for your head comfort. The special ergonomic mesh allows for very comfortable seating for your legs and your back that really helps relieve the tension in your muscles and lets you relax and focus on working. You can also recline quite far back if you want to rest a bit or just work in a very reclined back position. If you're someone who spends long hours at your desk, like most of us developers and gamers, this chair is honestly a lifesaver. Use my code C7YTB200 for $200 off your order and check out the link in the description or in the pinned comment for more information. Back to the air combat. Up until now, all my enemies were grounded, and my combat system was built exclusively for ground fighting. I had previously implemented a very basic air combat system, but it was buggy and frustrating. Attacks constantly missed, enemies would fly out of reach after one hit, and my character would spin and rotate wildly during attacks. Initially, I thought air combat would be simple. Just take the ground combat, make some small tweaks, and move on. But I was completely wrong. Everything felt broken, and nothing was smooth. I was baffled because in Kingdom Hearts, air combat felt so intuitive and smooth. And so to understand why my system felt so off, I turned back to Kingdom Hearts 2 for answers. I booted up the game, hopped onto the gummy ship, and flew to Twilight Town, specifically to the Station Heights area, where you can find a bouncing ball that you can juggle endlessly in mid-air. This was the perfect scenario because it allowed me to study the air combat closely without enemies being defeated quickly. I recorded Sora juggling the ball over and over again, and then meticulously watched it frame by frame. That's when I began to notice something crucial. Kingdom Hearts had multiple hidden systems ensuring smooth, perfect air combat. Sora never went higher than his target, Sora never overshot past the target, he constantly adjusted his orientation to face the target. If he was slightly below the target and in the wrong position, the game would slightly pull him back, ensuring proper alignment, and many other systems. Unlike my ground system, where each attack moves forward by a fixed distance, Kingdom Hearts dynamically adjusted every movement based on enemy positions. Suddenly it became very clear why many action games like Devil May Cry lock both the player and enemies into place during air combos. It's just so much easier to develop it that way. But I really love the dynamic freedom Kingdom Hearts offered, and so I scrapped my existing air combat and rebuilt it entirely from scratch with this newfound understanding. After a ton of trial and error, tweaking and refining, I finally nailed down a smooth air combat system that felt amazing to play. Attacks connected reliably, combos felt rewarding, and aerial battles became genuinely fun. With the flying enemies fully functional and satisfying air combat finally in place, we're now nearly done building the core combat mechanics of my game. And all that's left is the magic system, which I'm currently actively working on. By the way, if you're interested in the game, you can wishlist it on Steam so you get notified when the game comes out. I'd like to thank my luminous heroes, Nathan Osworth, Carrick Lamb, Zender, Sultan, Maxter, Shark Nips, Wissam Khalid, and the Big Frog. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Peace!